Do you know who President Harry S. Truman called the First Lady of the world? If you said Eleanor Roosevelt, then you're correct. I have been researching Eleanor Roosevelt's life in order to learn more about her. I will provide you with information about her childhood, education, career, and accomplishments. According to Kiera Stevenson's article, Eleanor Roosevelt, Anna Eleanor Roosevelt was born on October 11, 1884. She was the daughter of Elliot and Anna Roosevelt. Her father, Elliot, was an alcoholic, therefore he was in and out of her life. Her mother, Anna, resented her daughter, claiming she was too serious and homely. Her mother's resentment for her daughter even went as far as nicknaming Roosevelt Granny. Anna's brothers, Elliot Jr. and Hall, were her mother's favorites. Between the ages of 8 and 10, Eleanor Roosevelt's life would forever be changed by the death of 3 of her family members. Her mother was the first to go. She died by diphtheria. Not long after, scarlet fever claimed her brother Elliot Jr. The last to die was her father, who died of alcoholism. Not having anywhere else to go, Eleanor Roosevelt and her brother Hall were sent to live with their maternal grandmother. At the age of 15, Eleanor Roosevelt was sent to Allenswood boarding school in England. It was here that she started blossoming into the woman that we know as Eleanor Roosevelt. She was inspired by her headmistress, Marie Souvestre. She adopted Souvestre's ideas about improving the society and the living conditions of the less fortunate. Upon her graduation and moving back to New York City, she started her humanitarian work and put her education to good use. She started working to give educational and cultural experiences to immigrants in settlement houses. She also offered exercise and dance classes and joined the Junior League. To ensure that garment factory workers and department store workers had safe and clean working environments, she joined the National Consumers Union League. Around this time, Eleanor Roosevelt resentfully started attending balls and dinners in order to find a husband. In 1902, she met Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who happened to be her 5th cousin once removed. 1 year after meeting, Franklin proposed to Eleanor Roosevelt. On March 17, 1905, the couple was wed. This marriage gave Eleanor Roosevelt her first glimpse into the world of politics. Over the next 11 years, the couple had 6 children, although one died during infancy. During the time they were starting to start their family, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's political career soared when he was appointed as a member on the New York Senate in 1910 and the Assistant Secretary of the Navy in 1913. Just when Eleanor Roosevelt thought her life couldn't get any better, she discovered that her husband and her secretary were having an affair. In order to save her husband's political career, and because Franklin Roosevelt promised to end the affair, she did not divorce him. According to the first volume of Willis Chuck's biography, Eleanor Roosevelt, First Lady of the World, after Franklin Roosevelt suffered a nearly fatal attack of polio in 1921, Eleanor Roosevelt fought hard to keep her family safe in the political world. She joined the League of Women Voters and eventually became a part of the board of directors. She became a member of the Women's Trade Union League and the Women's Division of the Democratic State Committee. She also wrote a pamphlet entitled Why Am I a Democrat? For the Women's Division of the Democratic State Committee. She was also the co-owner and acting vice principal of Todd Hunter School, where she was able to teach sociology, economics, and government. In 1928, Franklin Delano Roosevelt made his comeback into the political world when he was elected as governor of New York. This same year, Eleanor Roosevelt was appointed the director of the Bureau of Women's Activities of the Democratic National Party. Here she wrote articles informing women about their new role in politics. In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt became the 32nd President of the United States. Reluctantly, Eleanor gave up her duties as a writer, activist, and a teacher. However, Eleanor Roosevelt could not deal with this. She was determined to reshape the role of the First Lady. She had 2 goals in mind. She wanted to bring more women into the world of politics and to bridge the gap between the people that were underrepresented and ignored by the Washington's politics. She was an influential factor in getting the first female cabinet member, Frances Perkins, elected as the Secretary of Labor. She also had a 15-minute radio broadcast which was devoted to discussing political issues. She also wrote a daily newspaper column entitled My Day, which ran for 20 years and was in over 60 newspapers across the United States. During this time, she also wrote a vast amount of articles and books. Another political cause that Eleanor was for was ending discrimination. She fought for Native American and African American rights, supported federal anti-lynching bills, and advocated for the end of discrimination in armed forces. Since her husband was immobile, Eleanor Roosevelt had to take a very active role in his presidency. She traveled to places where he could not. In 1945, Delano Roosevelt died suddenly. Thinking that this was the end of her political career, she moved back to New York. But President Harry S. Truman proved her wrong in 1946 when he appointed her as the United Nations delegate. Here is considered where she does her greatest work. After only being in this position for 2 years, she helped draft a document that would define humane treatment for people worldwide. This document is known as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In 1952, she resigned from this position in order to travel around the world and promote her social causes. In 1960, she returned to the political scene in order to support John F. Kennedy in his run for presidency. In 1961, John F. Kennedy appointed her as the UN chairperson of the Commission on the Statutes of Women. On November 7, 1962, Eleanor Roosevelt died of tuberculosis. During her lifetime, she said, "The purpose of life is to live it, to taste the experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for the newer and richer experience." Eleanor Roosevelt lived this quote time and time again. I have provided you with information on Eleanor Roosevelt's education, childhood, career, and accomplishments. Eleanor Roosevelt was an inspirational and hardworking woman.